Kristen Howe's in the house. We're actually probably only a few miles apart from each other, but in COVID times, we have to use these satellites thousands of miles away to talk to each other. How you been, Christian?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, that's a fun fact people may not know that we're both here in Asheville. We went running together a few months back and we got to do that again soon. Although
Totally.
you've got things coming on your schedule soon, which I respect. So
It was a very different life back then when we went running. I was not a father to be, and we didn't have a pandemic on our hands, but you know, change is inevitable. So, well, it's good to see you, Chris.
good to
And
see you.
I'm on your mailing list, and I see posts of yours. So I've been getting little like updates into your life and how things have been going over the last few months. But this is the first time we've actually chatted since that run. So if you would, I would like for you to just, for the people watching, the people that don't know, if you could just comment a little bit about some of the projects that you've been developing since COVID, because you more than anybody I know has just been crushing the COVID music game.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, one project that I'm really excited about that I want to make sure people know about, it's not my project per se, but I'm involved with it. And it's called Supernova, and it's by Dr. David Cutler, who's a composer and a pianist. It's a reimagining of Suzuki Violin Book One. So David Cutler, he came up with 17 new arrangements. He hired a great band, and he rearranged all 17 pieces in Suzuki Violin Book One, which I'm a Suzuki kid, I'm a Suzuki dad, I love the Suzuki community. Of course, I take a very broad view of what it means to be in Suzuki. Um, but this is really cool for people in Suzuki and people outside of Suzuki. And the way to check it out, these 17 new arrangements, I improvised over all 17 tracks. There's also versions of a Suzuki pedagogue named Rebecca Hunter playing on them. There's string ensemble arrangements for Suzuki. There's play along tracks. There's e-courses, all this stuff. The way to check it out is to go to David's Kickstarter, and it's called Supernova Musics. But if you go to tinyurl.com/, Supernova Music. So again, tinyurl.com/Supernova Music. So this is something I've been talking about and promoting. Also, to your original question, as far as crushing it, online or whatever. I mean, from the very moment that COVID happened, I think it took me about 30 seconds to sort of go into like a space that I had already known from way back in my past. Things that happened in my past where suddenly everything's changed, and probably a lot of people, I'm guessing, prior to the pandemic, you might be able to tap into some experience in your past where like suddenly things were taken away, suddenly things were different, suddenly things had changed. And I went into a hustle and overcome, response. And I've talked about what I think are kind of the four main responses. One is, let's wait and see what's going to happen. I guess I'll just wait and see. Some people have described this as, what do they call this? A radical uncertainty, embracing radical uncertainty, which I don't quite understand, but it's like,
Yeah.
well, we don't know what's going to happen, so let's just wait and see. That's one response. Another response I think that I've take is kind of this manic, like, I'm going to go work. I feel like, Finn, you've done some of that beautifully. I mean, some of the resources you've created, like your transcriptions that you've been giving away, are amazing. These interviews that you're doing are amazing. I think, you and I are similar in some ways, also because you've got a baby on the way. So, you don't have, maybe the way you look at it is a similar way that I look at it, that is like, you don't have the luxury of waiting and seeing it. But I'm not judging anybody's approach, because some people, I think a third approach is like self-improvement. Some people who have the ability, or for whatever reason, they're like, I'm going to go into self-improvement.
Yeah.
And actually, the thing about self-improvement is that I think that focusing on your own self-improvement may be actually the best way to truly overcome.
Mm.
So this could be something that we go into. It's like, I mean, you and I both spend hours and hours a day, promoting our services, whether as teachers, as musicians, or artists, just like
Yeah.
selling, which I think is really important. But this idea that if you really focus on making yourself stronger, if you're making yourself, improving your skills, like communication skills, like, you send a lot of emails, you write a lot of posts, communication is really important. So if you were to say, like, I want to become a better writer, maybe in a long time it will help you overcome more, right? So that's an interesting debate. And then the fourth response is, I think, to lash out or escape. So those are the four responses. Again, I'm not being judgmental of anybody on whatever response they take. I know for me, coming from this place of, my personality and just the way I'm wired, I come from I need to provide for my family. And so I go straight into, I need to hustle. I can't afford to think about, this happened, or, this happened, or now I don't have this opportunity that I did, or, this is going to make it harder. I just go straight into, I need to make it happen. And I will say that I just realized last night, as my ninth event in 8 countries was canceled for this February. It was the first time I realized, in 6 months, I've never taken a minute to actually just feel disappointed and sad and
Yeah.
just kind of grieve. And so I started working on this email that I want to send to people. And I'm just going to say it now. I feel like, as much as we want to talk about, let's be grateful, or let's pivot, or let's hustle, or let's self-improve, I think it is important for all of us to acknowledge whatever we've lost, the sadness that we feel about that. And no matter
Yeah.
how you feel like what you've lost, or what you've suffered in this has been small or big relative to somebody else, because I know people are losing things on massive levels. And so for me to think about, my event got canceled, or I lost all these touring gigs, and I lost all this money, that might be really small compared to what other losses people have experienced. But I also feel like it's important for me to feel that, to kind of feel the sadness and the disappointment. And it was interesting that after 6 months, last night was the first thing that actually allowed me to do that. And it was just,
Mhm.
in the scale of all the things that I've lost or whatever, which was a ton of events were canceled, a ton of gigs were canceled. This was relatively small, but it just hit me hard. And so I hope that people out there can find both sides of this balance, where it's it's important for you to feel that sadness. It's important for you to feel that disappointment, that grief about whatever it is. And I think that's not to say that we can't also be focused on gratitude, and that
Mhm.
we can't also, not look at, what can I do? How can I hustle? How can I overcome? What can I do? Let's make this happen. In fact, going through both of those may be necessary for each other.
Totally. Yeah. Well, the first thing I thought of, COVID has brought a lot of things into the spotlight that were probably already there. Um, Both things that we've been dealing with, maybe things that we've needed to work on from the self-improvement point of view. But when you were talking about hustle mode, the first thing I thought of, well, Chris has always been a hustler. Like people that know you, I think you have this reputation of someone who's just like a go-getter. You've pandemic or no pandemic, this is something that you've done. So, I mean, obviously there's the loss of so many gigs, and it feels like our careers were frozen as soon as the pandemic hit. But I mean, can you elaborate more on how maybe your hustle has changed? Because I don't think this is a new thing for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. And I mean, probably some people know a little bit about my backstory, which is that when I was 20 years old, I went to jail for 4 years. And, that was like a real pivotal moment in my life. It was a very formative experience. And there was, probably the one thing that you might imagine from going through experience like that is just that you have a lot of fear. All the time. There's a lot of uncertainty when you go to jail. It's just especially because you may not know this, but a lot of people in jail are serving what's called indefinite sentences. So I was serving a 6 to 25 year sentence, which meant that I didn't know when I was going to get out. And so if you can kind of imagine the fear of that,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of fear. And that's when I say sort of well, this pandemic sort of to me was, it kind of it was I've already rehearsed for this. It kind of feels in some way similar, when things are taken away, and you're there's uncertainty, and you're how am I going to survive? And the feeling that your security is threatened. And so during that period, I had, I really kind of had to confront every day, how am I going to respond to all this fear that I'm feeling, all this uncertainty, what kind of person am I going to become out of this? And I think that either consciously or unconsciously, I made a choice that I'm going to fight. I'm going to hustle and I'm going to try to overcome. And there was a sense of which the stakes for me felt so high that
Mm.
I felt like they outweighed the normal discomfort that I still feel, knocking
Mm.
on doors, and it's like
Yeah.
we all feel uncomfortable kind of offering our services. We all feel uncomfortable
Right.
asking people to buy our book or, sign up for our course or book my band or buy my record or check out
Yeah.
my show. Like every one of us feels naturally afraid to do that. And I do too, and I think also just part of our growth as people is that, like for me anyway, when I was in high school, like I would go to high school as a 16-year-old and I felt really like uncomfortable. Like I felt like, and like envious of the other kids that were more popular than me, or for that things seemed to be easier for them, or like, all the girls wanted to ask this guy to the prom but nobody wanted to go to the prom with me, and I think
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
carry that with ourselves in life, and we almost have this sense of like, it's like this, am I good enough, or why aren't people resonating, why aren't people following me in droves like they're following somebody else? And we
Yeah.
we sort of internalize this, and one of the ways that we react to that is that we're just like, I guess I think a lot of us feel like, well, if my stuff is good enough, then people will like me more, or they'll want to buy my stuff. But I just
Mhm.
started to look at it in a different way, and I
Mhm.
studied a lot of business, I studied a lot of sales and a lot of marketing, and what I realized is that, sales and marketing and promotion and whatever you want to call it, it's really a science and it's a skill that we can learn.
Mhm.
And it's not about if I'm good enough, people are going to buy my stuff. And if they're not buying my stuff, it's because I'm not good enough. No, it has everything to do with your message. So I did a little short post the other day about the presidential campaign.
Mhm.
The fact that, we're not necessarily going to vote for the best person. We're going to vote for whoever's message resonates with us and whoever reaches us with that message. So, like, for each one of you out there, if you're a teacher, if you're an artist trying to be found on Instagram, if you want band leaders to book you, what I would say is it's not really as much about how good you are. You're probably good enough. It's about
Mhm.
crafting your message and getting in front of people. And there's an art to that. And I know you've probably
Yeah.
heard it before, but I think it's so important to realize that it's the quality of your message. And that's part of what I admire about you, Finn. I mean, I think that you are a great communicator.
Oh,
I
thank you.
think that you're very authentic. You're very you're very driven by values, integrity. It really kind of like oozes from you. Anybody that sees you show up in the different ways that you do can see that you come from a place of generosity, that you come from a place of justice and fairness and curiosity and humility and service. Like, and so, but
Good.
at the same time, all those values that you so beautifully embody, and I think make people really fall in love with you if they do meet you or come in contact with you. You need to be willing to shout from the mountaintops. So even you doing something like this is a way to do that, to bring people to you. Just for me, I feel like, what is the choice that I have? And going back to when I was in that really, really low place in my life,
Mhm.
it was like, well, what is my choice? I can either surrender,
Mhm.
to whatever fate's going to bring me, or I can push and try to make it happen. So I've always taken that approach. But what I realized when the pandemic happened, and this is something I learned before too, because you
Mhm.
learn when you're in prison, like, one day something happens in jail and they're like, okay, now you're going to solitary confinement for 2 weeks. And then they
Right.
take even more away from you. And you realize how like just being in the normal prison is like so much better than being in solitary confinement. So life is always this, this like, sometimes you've got it easier and sometimes you've got it harder. But when you're in that really hard place, you realize what you're capable of. But then when like you get it a little bit easier, then we get soft. So
Yeah.
that had happened to me. So
Mm.
as much as you might have thought that I was a hustler and that I was hustling, it was like when the pandemic started in March, I started putting out a video every day on my YouTube channel. And it was like, and I realized like, wait, I was capable of this for the last 20 years. I
Totally.
was just soft. Like I wasn't digging deep enough, I was holding back.
Mm.
So, and I don't know if that addressed your question.
No, it did. Well, it just a lot of questions, I think. So have you maintained this like incredible prolific output of videos throughout the
Pretty
pandemic?
much. I mean, I probably put out 5 videos on YouTube every week, and I just, I focus on, like you, I focus on what can I give that's valuable to people,
Mhm.
that's really going to help them. And there's a combination of also like you, I think me putting out my like artistic works, but also,
Mm.
the like utility stuff. So like,
Yeah.
I do a lot of play along lessons,
Hmm.
and that's really just supposed to be a useful thing for any player at different levels and teachers. So on my YouTube, if you just look for my name on YouTube and look for play along videos, you can find 130 of them, or here at my Instagram.
Right.
um, and
Okay.
but then I still balance that with like, hey, here's a performance that I did or a recording that I'm working on. I try to keep that balance, but there's probably more on the utility side that I'm pushing out all the time, because I think that's how we have
Mm.
to lead. We have to lead with value, sometimes.
I want to talk a little bit about creative strings, and then we'll take questions from people. But because you have some people aren't familiar with this term fiddle camp, um, but it's a whole phenomenon. If you don't know what it is, now you know. It's this amazing phenomenon of people getting together and learning and being inspired for a week in a specific location. There are dozens of these all across the country and world, really. And you, Chris, have started one called Creative Strings Academy. Um, and as I know from one of your emails, you were the first to go online when COVID hit, correct? So, I mean, this is my dad actually runs a fiddle camp, as you know, and I know that this has been a real struggle for him, is trying to navigate this, not just because of the educational component. You know, you can teach through Zoom, you can, there are platforms where you can teach online, but there's so much more of a community building, and it just, you know, you're hanging out for a week with people being inspired, playing till 3 in the morning. I mean, that stuff is kind of irreplaceable in a way. So I'd love to hear how that transition has been for you with
Yeah.
creative strings.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, the camp that your dad's a part of, Swananoa Gathering,
Hmm.
is maybe one of the biggest of its kind in the world, as far as I am aware, and it's an incredible camp for anybody, especially if you're interested in any kind of folk music on fiddle, but probably any kind of music on fiddle, and
Yeah,
not
totally.
even just fiddle. And the Swananoa Gathering, I mean, I felt really honored to be a part of it a few years ago, and
Right.
I'm so impressed with it. But you know, but I think they've been around longer than me too. I mean, I started
30
creating
years.
things in 2000, so it was like 20 years that I've been working on doing my fiddle camps. But I think Swanano has been what, 27 years?
This would have been the 30th year,
Yeah.
or
So
29th, but yeah.
I mean, so I really appreciate how much goes into it. But when you do an event like that, it's all year round you work on it. Obviously, as you know, and I'm sure for your dad, it's even more than it is for me, because Swananoa Gathering is so, it's huge, it's like hundreds and hundreds of people. But for me, it would be all year round. I'd work on it, and then every year I'd do it, and then I'd work on it again. And it's the kind of thing where, yeah, people come together for all this community, and it's so magical to be the facilitator of that community, that you kind of feel like you're willing to just keep working on it, even though it's never making enough money for you. But when what happened in March was, because over the 20 years I've been building the annual event in Columbus, but then I started doing satellite events. So
Mm.
this year I was planning 9, and we did the first one in Europe in February, but then we had 8 more planned in 6 other countries, and all of them got canceled at once. And so that's, hundreds of thousands of dollars of money that's just gone, and all the work we've done all year leading up to it, staff that I've paid, advertising I've done, and then tons and tons of people that have signed up that you have to say, hey, sorry. And I was like, I need to try to offer these people that have signed up something they can do online as an option, as a salvaging, right? And even not, I'm
Yeah.
not going to get everybody to come online, but I need to try. And so that was actually, it was that sort of that necessity, my back to the wall, that I was like, let me do this. Now, I've been teaching online in different ways for over 10 years, including like business consulting, and also for musicians, but also like teaching lessons, and like having my academy and all these different
Mm.
things for over 12 years. So I was probably ready. It was more ready than most people to offer something that was bigger and more involved, like an online conference.
Mm.
But it was still a big stretch to like put it together right away and like make it happen. And Um, but it's probably the best thing I've ever done. And I've
Mm.
called it Creative Strings Workshop Online. We started with a beta group, and I recommend for anybody out there, if you're thinking about doing a workshop, if you're thinking about doing a 3-day course or, anything, what I would recommend, here's one of the biggest tips you can use, is offer the first one free and let people get in and call it a beta. They're your beta group. In exchange for them getting this thing for free, they've got to be willing to agree to a few things. So one might be like giving you some testimonials, or like, just being patient as you work out the whatever the glitches, and they've got to promise to show up and be a part of it. But if you get people to do your beta, and I know, Finn, you're a great teacher and you offer a lot of different courses and different types of experiences for people to learn with you. This is something you could do too. It's like, hey, we're going to do it can even just be like, we're going to do 1 2 hour Zoom call, and I'm going to make this free for for 20 people, but you've got to sign up by this time and you've got to promise these things. This part of it
Mm.
is kind of important,
Right.
because when you give away something for free, people are going to they're going to tend to want to devalue it.
Hmm.
And so you've got to make them realize this is valuable, and I'm giving it away to you for free, but this is, I'm asking something from you.
Hmm.
You've got to kind of recognize the value in these ways, by showing up, by making this promise, by letting me use your testimonials, whatever, and then answering a survey and saying, what could I improve about this? And so then they come, and so I did that anyway. I did a beta offering, and I brought a lot of teachers in, and then I launched the full scale offering, and it went amazing. And I did it for 2 months, and then I did it again in the summer, and then now I'm doing it in the fall, and we're going to launch our next one November 1st. So it's a 7 week
Amazing.
course, and you can work with me, and it's basically the best teaching program I've ever put together. And instead of being a 1 week fiddle camp, it's a 7 week fiddle
Mm.
camp. And so there's pros and cons of that, but I feel like the pros are really big pros, because it's like, one of the things about fiddle camp, as you know, Finn, is that we get this intense, wonderful community, and you get tons of information thrown at you, and you get in the spirit, for a few
Mm.
days or for a week, and then you leave and it's over. And so one of the things about that is, then it's over. Well, it's over. Well, with this program I'm doing, it's 7 weeks, so you get that continuity, and so you can come in and you can leave. So, but yeah, I'm really excited about that. I
Mm.
intend to hopefully continue doing it every 2 months. Right now, if anybody's interested, reach out to me, because we do have an early registration discount before, in the next few days, that's open for our November program. So please just reach out to me anytime, or about anything
I'm
that
gonna
I'm
tell
doing.
I'm gonna tell my dad to reach out to you just for tips.
Yeah, I'll be happy to talk with your dad and the team at Swano, because I think that teaching online, I mean, that is another area we could go into for anybody out there
Yeah.
that's trying to teach online. Because I've done it for 10, 12 years, I have
Hmm.
gone through a long curve of learning what works and how to actually use it to your advantage, and to also, help your students.
For sure. Well, let's thank you for that, Chris. Let's take a few questions since it's almost 2:30. The first question is from Chris Santos, who asks, "How old were you when you started to play the violin, and what age do you consider ideal to start to play an instrument?"
I was 5, and I consider ideal to start between the age of 2 and 6. And the reason is because, as when we're little kids, our brain supposedly is optimized to learn language. We learn to speak by hearing our parents and the people around us, and that's how we learn language. And it's the same with music, at least in the Suzuki method where I was taught. And I do highly recommend that you do Suzuki method as a musical family, which I know Finn comes from music family. I'm guessing he's going to agree with pretty much everything I'm saying. Start them young, the younger the better. And also, parents realize that, like, this is about your involvement. This is not going to be like that you just tell your kid, okay, go do what you do and go. No, you're going to sit down with your kids every day, and it's a long-term game. You're going to show up with them every day, and their involvement with music, your involvement with them as a parent, is part of that bonding, and it's about helping them become a better person. And so you as a parent need to understand that this is about your involvement, and really, a long-term commitment, music education, just like anything else. If you want your kids to be involved with sports, my son does taekwondo, he does soccer, but he also does violin. He practices violin every single day. And that's what it is. It's a discipline. It's part of lifestyle. So if you're
Yeah,
committed to music education, that's what we want for you and for your kid.
that's a great answer. Thank you so much. And Chris says, "Amazing, thank you." So she liked it too. I'm just gonna scroll Instagram here real quick for questions. We have a lot of people that have joined. I see a lot of violins in the avatars, so I know there's a lot of strings players watching. Um, let's see. A lot of people are saying, "Hey, Chris, I'm a super fan. Hello." Cool. So no questions yet. Yeah, don't be shy, anyone, if you have any burning questions for Chris. Let's see if I have any burning questions. I mean, I feel like there's so much I could just touch on any subject and just let you go. You're like Robin Williams.
I'm sorry, I'm probably talking too much, Sid.
No, it's great. It's great. No, I love to hear what you have to say. So, well, let's see. Let me think here. So we talked about creative strings. We talked about. Do you have any other projects you're working on apart
Well,
from play alongs?
I just want to, I'd love to plug again my free play along videos. So if anybody here, if you're not following me on Instagram or especially go to my YouTube, but I'm putting out play along videos. So whatever level you're at, you can come and you can practice with me. It's like doing yoga with Adrian. I do yoga with Adrian. Adrian is a yoga person. I turn on YouTube and I'm in yoga class. And
Hmm.
that's what I try to replicate with my play along videos. So if you have your instrument, you just plug my video on and you just play along with me. I'll give you a little taste of it.
Cool.
So can you hear that loop behind me?
Yeah, I can hear it.
So this is like a slow R&B loop that I just made right here. You know, right before we like 3 minutes when we were getting on.
Oh, word.
I might play a line, ask you to play it back, starting on E. So I'd ask you to play that. Start on E.
Da, 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 da.
You know, exactly. Starting on C. You got that? And then you play it. You know, and I do it at all levels. So I might be for the advanced one. I might be okay. Grab this one. All right, go ahead and play that lick back. You
Yeah,
know, you know. But I also do like
yeah.
the easiest, the really easiest levels as well. And I find that there's actually a lot of people that are coming to my videos looking for like easy level play-alongs. So I would
Mhm.
say look for my play-alongs on my YouTube channel. Subscribe. I'm putting them out like almost every day, and I put them out also on my Instagram here less frequently.
And you do
Um,
all sorts of genres, right? I mean, you
yeah, so
cover
it's like
everything.
that was like R&B, but then I might do like a this is like a Brazilian loop, you know, kind of
Yeah.
ish, you
Yeah,
know, like
no. Very
and
Brazilian.
here's like a more it's another loop. You know, so I try to come up with different grooves that'll you know, so I do blues, rock, pop, you know, classical, whatever it might be. And sometimes I work on different stuff like rhythm stuff or like, you know, harmony stuff in those videos as well. So, you know,
So,
check those out.
I mean, this is very, this reminds me a lot of the Suzuki project that you're involved with, the reimagining Suzuki, because it's reimagining these classic Suzuki pieces as different genres, or maybe the same pieces, multiple genres. I'm not sure. Um, but I think that's so cool, and I think that's great for people who, I know there's a few Brazilians watching, and in Brazil, this is changing, but so many people, when they think of the violin, they think of classical music. It's like the two are like, synonyms for the same idea, and that's only started to change in like the last 10 to 15 years maybe, and and like violinists are finding the courage to play other styles of music, but I mean,
Yeah, I mean this is you know like sort of a bossa nova, and I apologize to the Brazilians out there, you because obviously I'm a North American and I haven't spent time in Brazil like Finn has, but I love the music, so I'm always trying to work on it, and so like even with something like this, you know, uh, you know I do a lot of stuff with bossa nova and samba, and I you know because I consider myself sort of a practicing student of the
yeah,
music,
yeah,
and yeah.
yeah, no, well, it sounds great, man. And one thing that I love about, I think this is true a lot of a lot of great players, you play a lot of different styles of music, but it always sounds like Chris House,
Well,
you know.
thank you.
It does, which, well, me historically, I grew up playing all sorts of different genres, and I would like deliberately try to not sound like a violin player. If I was learning jazz, I'd try to sound like a horn player, and I'd like try and get away from all these violinistic tendencies. Or if it was like, if I was playing Irish music, I'd try to sound 100% Irish, old time, 100% old time. And at the end of the day, like, you have your idiosyncratic qualities that are just going to shine through no matter what. And over my life, I've come to embrace those more, but I think that that's encouraging to people who want to play different genres, because some people get intimidated by getting into other genres because they're like, oh God, well, it took me a lifetime just to learn Bach, so how could I even begin to learn Brazilian or whatever?
Well, that's a really important point. I think that what people miss is that how you use your time when you practice, you can accomplish more with less time. So a common problem or struggle that people have is that they feel like, okay, so I need to practice 2 hours for classical, but if I want to learn jazz or if I want to learn samba, I need to add another hour. I disagree with that. I feel like
Mm,
you can change the way you practice so you're accomplishing more things at once. So, for
mm.
example, like
Yeah, give us an example.
I could put on this samba track at the very first thing when I start practicing, but I could be working on intonation or shifting. It's
Mm,
about changing the way you practice and being really
totally.
intentional about your goals and combining those things. And I know, Finn, that you do all this because you play a lot of different types of music, and
Hmm.
you also sound like yourself on all of them.
Oh, thank you.
And you don't sacrifice violin playing. I mean, you play the violin extremely well, in tune, with you're aware of your body, you're aware of the inflections and tone. And so I think it is possible. First of all, we want to let people know it's totally possible, and it's not about adding more time. It's about
Mm,
being clearer about your goals, getting support. Get support from someone like Finn or somebody like me, so that we can help you save time
mm.
as you're working towards those goals, because the sequencing is important and people tend to underestimate, right, Finn?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
They're like, okay, so teach me, like answer my question on a Facebook comment and tell me what I need to do to learn to improvise samba. It's like,
Right.
okay, let's back up a second.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, I'm not going to answer your question in one. This is like, take it seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, and don't underestimate. And a lot of people underestimate it, but at the same time, it is easier than you might think if you're working on the right things and you want to get
Mhm,
support. You want to reach out to Finn for that. You want to reach out to
mhm.
me for that if you want to take that step.
It sounds like you have a very holistic approach when it comes to learning anything. I mean, you were talking earlier about like, how to learn to market yourself and how to learn to communicate better. And it seems like all of these things, it's not even a coin, it's a sphere, and they're all part of the same idea, because it's as if you do one thing well and it improves everything else. If you're a better communicator speaking, you're going to be a better communicator on your instrument, and you're going to be a better communicator in your Facebook ads. And it just feels like everything informs the other.
And I feel like the common denominator of that for us is self-awareness. Actually, it's
Mm,
about the willingness to the ability and the willingness to look at what is holding me back and what do I actually want. And
yeah,
so it's like, and you have to start with a holistic view of that. It's like for Finn, who's going to be a dad coming up soon, like, that might be the biggest thing in your vision for your life coming up with you and Christiana.
yeah,
It's like, that the family is at the forefront. And I know of our conversations that family is at the forefront of your mind. And,
yeah,
music fits into that. But really, when you start with like, okay, this is the vision I have for my family. This is the vision I have to be a father.
mm,
Like everything can flow from that. It's like, well, how
yeah,
does music fall into that? How does money fall into that? How does my
yeah,
creativity fall into that? And having that awareness, and
mm,
then that clear vision, and then having really clear goals that support it, and the self-awareness to be able to realize honestly where you're stuck and to be able to look out for support and get support to find those answers, I think is so important. And people miss this all the time. They think, well, like the violin is just one thing, but it's
mm,
not one thing. Everything needs to go together. And everything that you struggle with as a musician, in your business, as a family person, as a husband, as a father, you
mm.
know it's all connected to our own self-awareness and our own personal development, I think.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I would, if anyone out there on Instagram or in this Zoom is watching, if any of this resonates with you, I would highly encourage you to seek Chris out for a business coach lesson, because you do business coaching, you do, apart from music lessons, you
Yeah.
offer a wide variety of services. So
Yeah, and my 7 week course, the Creative Strings Workshop online, next one starts November 1st, but it is a platform for people to have this kind of integrated coaching experience with me. So some people come because they want to be better teachers, some people come because they want to make more money, some people come because they want to learn to improvise or learn different styles of music. But I usually try to help people kind of integrate these things, and it's a little bit of a, I don't know, I hate to use a word, but there's a life coaching aspect of it, I guess you could say.
music is life, you know,
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. Well, I think let's see. I think we could probably end it for today. If there's no, I'll put out one last call for questions here on Instagram
Yeah,
and
while you're doing that,
yeah,
I'll just one more shameless plug about the project with Dr. David Cutler. It's called Supernova.
Supernova.
Supernova Music. It's a dramatic reimagining of Suzuki Violin Book One. You've got to hear it to believe it. So just check out his Kickstarter. It's at tinyurl.com tinyurl.com/supernova music. And thanks. Sorry for the extra plugging.
No, I'm adding it to the group here on Zoom. I did actually watch the video and it blew my mind.
It's
It's
Supernova
amazing.
Music, just so you know,
Oh,
tinyurl.com/supernova music. Thank
oh,
you, man. Thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever heard any of the Suzuki Book One repertoire, like it's kind of freaky what David did with it. He said, different genres for different tunes. Yeah, but if anybody here has any questions, I'm happy to hang. And and if not, it's just great to hang with you, Finn. I mean, I want to
Yeah,
make sure people
likewise.
know about your stuff because
Oh, thanks.
I was blown away by your transcriptions. I mean, can you tell me what's up? Like, update me about the transcriptions that you've made available for people
Yeah, so
and your courses.
yeah, sure. Well, the transcriptions, I've been doing a lot of different projects over quarantine, and the transcriptions have kind of taken a back seat because I have I can show you like this whole book is full of jazz transcriptions,
That's amazing.
basically. Yeah, and I mean I don't know if like anyone can see that, but they're not, you know, I have my notes in there and they're not always super legible. So
That's
eventually
incredible. Are you kidding me? That's
I,
amazing.
thanks, man. So eventually I plan to like actually put them in Finale, but obviously that's like a huge undertaking because there's hundreds of transcriptions. I kind of don't know where to start. So at some point I will be like releasing some volumes. But the other projects, one of the big projects in the spring was developing a course, How to Back Up Singers, which is a course I've actually taught at Fiddle Week, which is part of the Sono Gathering, where you've taught as well. And I looked on the internet. I couldn't find any courses for how to back up singers, so I was like, well, I'm gonna make one. So I've created it. I put it up on thinkific.com, and there's like 40 videos, 2 hours worth of
Wow.
videos, and like lots of MP3s and downloadable PDFs, etc. Um, so that was my big project in the spring, and then over the last few months, I've been doing a lot of like workshop series where people they pay a lump sum and they get access to. I mean, you've been doing similar things to this, and I give them a lot of extra stuff like PDFs and MP3s, play-alongs, backing tracks. This is for Irish music, and I also play guitar. I play rhythm style guitar, so play the backing tracks for the tunes. Um, and then the other stuff is just working on a few albums. So with my daughter arriving any day now, I was like, man, I don't know the next time I'm gonna have all this time, this quiet time. So I've just been, I have a little recording studio here, and I've made 3 albums in the last 6 months,
Wow.
just to have and be able to release when when I feel like the time is right. But
That's
they're all,
incredible.
I mean, one of them was I was already working on it. I'd already recorded half of it. It's with another musician. One's a Brazilian album. Um, Another one is kind of like a new acoustic improvisatory thing.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, just like counting on not having as much quiet time and ability to record in the at least the next year or two. And these are projects I didn't just invent out of thin air. They're things I'd already wanted to do. So just trying to make the most use of this time the last 6 months. Um, just education and recording is basically what I've been focusing on.
That's incredible, man. Kudos to you. And but people can go find a course on Thinkific if can they get to
Mhm.
transcriptions from you still, or is that
Yeah,
did you gotta wait
if
on that?
totally. If they go to my website, andrewfinmcgill.com, they'll find a link to the course. And it's also on my Facebook page, Andrew Finn McGill Music. As far as the transcriptions, literally just email me with the genre, and I will send you a PDF of. I have like various different genres. I have swing and jazz and bluegrass, but I'll just send you a PDF of like 15 fiddle solos or horn solos, depending on the genre.
That's incredible. That I got to get you on as a guest for my if you'd be open, if you'd be down, I'd like to hire you to come on and teach one of my group classes for my 7-week course because I bring in
Oh,
some
it'd be an
guests.
honor. Wow.
That'd be really cool.
Wow, that'd be amazing, Chris. Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, we do. We have a 2-hour Zoom group class every Thursday at 1 and every Saturday at 7:30. And so
Mm.
we'll find whichever one works best for your schedule and have you just do like a 45-minute segment if you're open to it, and then we'll promote your stuff to my students because I've got about 75 students
Okay.
in my current class, and then it's an ongoing thing. It might be cool to get you involved with the program as one of the mentors as well. This is sort of
Absolutely. I would love that. As long as my wife's not in labor, I'm there, man.
right. Understood.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
Oh,
You're an inspiration, man.
oh, so are you, man. I actually have a question. So before
Okay.
we go
Yeah.
here,
Great.
excuse me, Finn. Oh, this is for me. Are you sharing any of your transcriptions on the internet? Okay, so yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about. Not in a public way. You have to message
Message.
me privately. Yeah. But I would say, as I mentioned, at some point I plan to release a nice, pretty PDF version of these transcriptions. So I would just, if you're curious to learn more about that, just follow my Facebook page, and then you'll be getting little tidbits about that as it develops.
Well, but just message Finn and say, hey, they can email you too, right? They can just email
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
at your website and just say,
Or
Finn, I want this transcriptions, and he'll send them to you. That's. But man, your writing is great. I don't think you even need a finale thing. I mean, it looks amazing. What an incredible resource! I've never heard of anybody making such a big resource of transcriptions, and those are really valuable. I mean, to a lot of people, that's really incredible.
cheers, thanks, man. Yeah, so Terabithian, whoever sent that, just send me a message on Instagram later, and I'll send you some transcriptions. That goes for anyone out there. Chris, thank you so much, man. This has been really inspiring, and it's always great to chat to you and hear your ideas. And you're just like gushing positivity every time I see you. It's great.
Thanks, brother. You too. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. We're gonna end the meeting here, but Chris, I'll send you a message here in a second. But we're gonna end the live stream for now. Thank you, everyone, for your questions, and we'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.